In a relationship, sometimes we don't take into consideration the influence we have on the relationship, whether it's good or bad, based on our thoughts, our beliefs, our actions, our attitudes, our willingness to participate even. We don't take into contemplation or consideration and become aware of how we impact the outcome of that relationship or its health.
Well, welcome to another episode of What to Say and How to Say It. Today, we're talking about if you're missing this piece in your marriage, you're missing everything. We're with our favorite licensed professional counselor, Kyle Hargrove. And today we're going to be talking about how important it is to feather out a very specific awareness. And if you don't have this, you're going to blow your relationships up. So if you have a number of people in your lives that are telling you the same thing, maybe this is the thing you're missing that might help you solve that particular problem. And so, Kyle, what are we talking about today?
We're talking about awareness. That's what you just said.
And what do you mean specifically, though?
Oh, mercy. Well, I don't know, how many places could we go with this? I'm just thinking of all the possibilities of ways that we are not self-aware when it comes to our relationships. You know, it's not hard to be self-aware when your teeth are getting dingy. That's easy to see. It's not hard to be self-aware of when I've heard about people that actually lose their hair. And they're pretty aware of that when it happens and the rest of their lives. But
I'm so sorry.
if you had hair like mine was, this is actually not so bad.
Okay.
Because it's a heck of a lot less work, and B, it was terrible. My hair was not really curly and not straight at all, just kind of in between and very unmanageable. So I'm okay with it. So back to the topic that we started there, the self-awareness. There's so many things about ourselves. I guess that's why they call it self-awareness. But when it's just us, we know at the moment it happens. We can tell something's about to happen, just a feeling, or this is not right, or something's off balance. But in a relationship, sometimes we don't take into consideration the influence we have on the relationship, whether it's good or bad, based on our thoughts, our beliefs, our actions, our attitudes, our willingness to participate even. We don't take into contemplation or consideration and become aware of how we impact the outcome of that relationship or its health.
Well, and that kind of hits close to that first point we wanted to talk about, which was mindfulness training and why it's super important to be mindful.
Yeah. I mean, what does it mean to be mindful? What comes to mind? What comes to your mindful mind when mindfulness is brought into the equation?
Well, if you don't mind, I
don't.
would. Yeah.
It was on my mind.
What's it on your mind? Yeah. So we just lost half our listeners there with those terrible jokes from both of us. No, it's fully present now. Be here now. Whatever here is, whatever you're doing now. And I'm fully present. I'm absorbing whatever this is with everything in me. I'm focused, I'm aware. And it is a maturity thing to be able to be present. And I like that God gave me this shell where you don't know what's cooking back here behind the lenses and the storefront. You don't really see all of that. My goal with my insides is to be listening and to be focused and to be absorbing whatever's being presented to me, or, if I'm walking in nature, even just to be observant of what's around me. Easy to do, to learn when you're in Montana, growing up with rattlesnakes, or Texas with rattlesnakes, because if you're not aware, you get killed, right? Yeah. So things are there that can kill you. So you need to be mindful. So it's pretty easy for me to do that.
Okay.
But being fully present, but it's not when I let loose of my thoughts. If I don't choose to stay focused, if I don't choose that, or if I'm worrying, or if I'm judging, then I'm no longer mindful. I'm not present.
So you said here now,
right now. Yep.
Okay, right here, right now.
Well, that we missed it. Yes.
Diners, drive-ins, and no, that's the wrong show. Okay. Right here, right now is what you said. And that is so true. All right. However, I'm thinking back on just a few of the thousands of couples that I've worked with over the last few decades.
Mm-hmm.
And the arguments and the confrontation and the conflict that they're exhibiting in my presence seems not to be about right here, right now. It seems to be about something that happened back yesterday or further.
Or the thing that they just know they're just gonna do because
I know what you're going to do. Okay. Right, that's worry and anxiety. That's about this direction.
Right.
Okay. So they're angry and bitter about something happened in the past, or they're anxious and worried about something that might or might not happen in the future, leaves nobody here and now.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah. So maybe I did forget to lock the back door 28 times in the last 5 years. Maybe that is true, right? But I didn't do it that way tonight. So you can choose to remind me you can leave the here and now, child or spouse of mine or whatever, I'm just making this up. I'm pretty good about locking doors, but whatever it is, we can leave the now. And then,
and if we camp out there somewhere else other than now, it is wasted effort, wasted energy, wasted everything.
Yeah.
Because if you've ever been eaten up with bitterness and anger because you're living in the past, you know how frustrating and exhausting that can be.
Yeah.
And to think of how exhausted you've been when you were that way, can you imagine needing energy for the here and the now? Where are you going to get it?
Yeah.
Okay. And it's no different with the future and the anxiety that just robs us of our joy, in a time and place that hasn't even happened. You want to hear the third part about that?
Yeah.
Where's God?
He's here now. Yeah, okay. I am.
He's already left there and he doesn't go back. Okay. And he's going to be there when we get there. But he's not there now because he's right here. That's what he promised us. Sorry, I hit the camera. Okay. He's right here. I get excited sometimes and I just can't help myself. Yeah. But why do you want to live in a godless place?
Ooh, that's good.
Your time and your effort and your energy in a place where God is not.
Mm-hmm. Well, and part of that self-awareness when it comes to mindfulness, people are like, well, but I can't control my thoughts. I can't. Well, yes, you can. It's work at first.
Yeah.
Yes, you can. It's not a muscle, but it feels very much like a muscle activity. If you've ever lifted weights, you do deep breathing exercises or you just focus on something and that act of pulling your mind back to that pulling back thing where you're focused on your breathing or you're focused on the moment at hand. It's the pulling back that develops the ability to focus. It's not, I'm going to focus for 37 seconds. Oh, I made it 2. Okay, it's over. I fail. No, you pull your mind back and you do it another 3 seconds. And then, oh, I failed. No, you pull your mind back. It's the pulling back piece that develops the ability to concentrate and be focused and be fully present. And then you're able to see nonverbals on the other person's face. And you hear the tonation in their voice. You hear the sadness or the heavy or the stress. And then you're so present that you can say, hey, are you okay? Yep. Which is, if there's any question that deepens a relationship, that's definitely on the list, right?
That's right up there. But you talk about, feeling the use of your muscles. Have you ever heard of the concept of muscle memory?
Yep.
Okay. I hear it a lot because I watch too much golf. Okay. And the golfers talk about the concept, of muscle memory and just, your body remembering, your muscles remembering the motion of the swing, the good swing, not the bad one.
Right, right.
That's why if you practice a bad swing, your practice does not always make perfect. Sometimes it makes it permanent.
Permanent.
Okay.
Yeah.
But that concept of muscle memory, I think, can apply When we say, I can't control my thoughts. Yeah. You want to know why? Because my thought muscle memory says I don't control my thoughts.
Exactly.
I don't control my thoughts.
Yep.
But if I can train myself through mental muscle memory, if that's a thing, to have the discipline to make my thoughts fit reality and rationality instead of fear and anxiety and anger and all that stuff, I can control my thoughts, which is going to then in turn change what I believe, which ultimately changes what I do and how
the
way I carry myself.
I love that so much. There's a tutoring company here in town called in Cincinnati. And well, actually they're in a number of places. They're called Providence Extension Program. And their motto is train your mind for action. It's actually a scripture. I can't remember the reference right now, but train your mind for action, which is what you just described. Train your mind. And then the action comes after that, because that gets filtered through the beliefs that are those trenches, the habits of thinking that we have. If we're not training our minds, if we're not questioning the thoughts, and by the way, all our thoughts are not our own. Hello, somebody give me an amen. Like the enemy is good at that. Yeah, for real.
Yeah,
that's a consideration.
Just to finish everything I know about mindfulness, it's just the self-awareness part. When I speak with people about mindfulness, there are always three things that I try to bring up. The first is self-awareness. Number one, I want to be here in the here and now, and I want to be honest about my role in things. That part of self-awareness. The second part is openness. Okay, I have to be open to hearing and contemplating and chewing on some things that I might not want to hear. I might not want to hear things about me, or about my role in things, or what I've done or haven't done, or whatever the case may be. I have to be open to change if I am going to be able to expect it.
Well, that means that you're humble, because there's no room for pride in that space, right?
Yeah, that's right. Being open says I lay it all down, and I'm willing to take it on. I may have to defend some things ultimately, but right now I'm just going to listen and take it in.
Yeah.
Okay. And the third thing is the communication part of mindfulness, because communication in this process requires clarity. To be totally mindful, aware, open, and clear. Okay. I've got to be able to talk about my part in it. I've got to be able to receive from you my part in it.
Yeah.
It's all about me. I don't know. Those are the three things: awareness, openness, and clarity. If you can have those three things, you can be a pretty mindful individual.
Well, and the best relationships have two people that are mindful in them. When I work with couples or individuals, for that matter, that are struggling with what to say and how to say it, and the communication, it always starts with, what are you telling yourself? We have to have that self-awareness, know what is the communication I'm having with myself, and then how is that showing up with somebody else. And what you just said is usually, I break that up, and it's like, you're going to go in and you're going to have this hard conversation, but your job that first round is just to listen. Yeah. You're like a reporter. Take a pencil with you, even write it down. It'll give you something to do other than being flooded and offended. and you don't get to say anything back. You're there to listen and learn. That's it. That's the goal of that first piece. People tend to, and it sounds crazy, like nobody does that. Well, the people that do that have better relationships, because they don't give into the stuff in their head. They're choosing to be fully present. They're choosing to listen. And
listening to understand, rather than listening to respond.
Yep.
Because listening to respond, I got to say, I have to admit, that's my default. If I'm not sitting in front of somebody knowing I'm at work now, or if I'm not sitting with my wife knowing I really need to listen to this because it's going to be a test, my default is to listen to respond. It's what we do.
Yeah, we're all.
Sometimes we got to turn that all the way off intentionally and say, I really, really need to listen here so I can understand what the other person needs me to hear.
Yeah. And that's a mindful activity. You're choosing to be fully present with your mind, with that person, no matter what.
Yep.
And it's not an easy thing to do. And it takes work. We have to train our minds. We have to question the thoughts that come to us. We have to search for what's good, true, noble, right, pure, admirable, praiseworthy. And you can't do that if you're wrapped up in anxiety. That's why Philippians 4:6 tells you to give God your worries, and he will, with gratitude. And
Yes.
then he gives you the peace that surpasses all understanding. And then you can think. And here, by the way, is what you're supposed to think about, whatever's true, noble, right, pure, admirable, praiseworthy, and excellent. Those things.
Yeah. And that goes along with the scripture that says to give thanks in all things. Remember, well, it does not say give thanks for all things. In all circumstances.
Yep.
Okay. Whether they're good or bad, or whether I caused it to be that way or not.
No, I know, right?
Be able to give thanks to God for what either is going to is the benefit of that circumstance, or what I get to learn from it.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's going to be one or the other.
Yeah. No,
okay? And my dad taught me, sometimes you win, sometimes you learn.
Well, education is what you get.
I didn't care for hearing that when I was a kid. You hear win, lose, or draw, or, sometimes you win, sometimes you lose, sometimes it gets rained out. My dad said, sometimes you win, sometimes you learn.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm grateful for that teaching now.
Yeah, I bet you passed that on to your kids.
Did my best.
Jury's out till they're old, though, right?
Yeah. There's another point that I would like to bring up around awareness.
Okay.
Do we have time?
Yeah.
Okay. And I, just in kind of giving things my own little titles and having my own vocabulary, basically, I've come up with a concept called emotional physics.
Mm-hmm.
And here's the reason why. I'm a very simple person. I am very visually oriented, and graphics grab me sometimes. They get my attention. They hold my attention. If there's something that needs to be learned as a result of that graphic, I often remember it much more readily than other things. And I'm getting to the age where remembering is an issue.
Yeah, it kind of is important.
Yeah.
I get you.
It's very important. And I'm seeing it, more and more every day, because I'm having a more difficult time doing it. Mm-hmm. So I used this graphic, I don't know, 10, 12 weeks ago in one of our podcasts. And I wanted just to use it as an example of one of the things that we can remember in our minds when it comes to being emotionally aware. Mm-hmm. Okay. So I showed you this picture quite some time back. I hope that's on the screen. Okay.
The atomic bomb.
Yeah. It's a mushroom cloud.
Yep.
All right. So when we see that mushroom cloud, we think of the atomic explosion, the nuclear disaster, whatever you want to call it. And regardless of all the other parts about it, there's the bottom part that's called the blast radius. Okay. And so it's the part on the ground, regardless of how high or how, that's not what we'd be saying, even though it's kind of a beautiful thing to look at, not beautiful what's happening. So the blast radius is the part on the ground. It's where the trees and the houses and the buildings and all those things are. And the reality of an atomic explosion or a nuclear explosion like that is that things in the blast radius get destroyed.
Yeah. So
I talk to people with that graphic in mind a lot of times about when you're a reactor, and you blow up, mm-hmm. and this, great mushroom cloud comes over your relationship and you're out of control and all that kind of stuff. When that's what you are, there is also a blast radius of people and relationships and situations and circumstances that get destroyed because of your behavior and your choices of behavior.
Yeah.
So kind of with that in mind, okay, so that was an illustration of the mushroom cloud. It helps us remember, don't be a reactor, be a responder, okay, because there's a lot of damage that occurs in a reaction. So the new one is the emotional physics. Mm-hmm. And I'd like you to think through the physics. I am not a physician. I'm not a physicist or person or
physicist.
That too.
There's a lot of is's in there. Right. But yeah, we get you.
So I have no letters behind my name that have anything to do with physics. Okay. But a vessel designed to hold something. All right. Designed for something to be poured into it, put into it, whatever you want to call it. The laws of physics say there's a limit to what it can hold. Mm-hmm. Okay. And so when you put that one drop or that 1 pound or that one straw that broke the camel's back, there's another one. Okay. When you put that one thing in okay, that's the one thing that's too much.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. That vessel can no longer hold its integrity. Okay. It blows. Pieces
Kind of like
go everywhere.
too much air in a balloon or too much
Exactly.
water in a balloon.
Exactly.
Kaboom.
And so it could be a lot of different things in there. But I want you to think of your emotional awareness as something, a vessel. Okay. Think of your emotions as, and where they go is into a vessel. And let's just go ahead and consider that vessel to be inside of our human body. All right. So when we're not mindful, when we're not aware, open, and clear about how we're feeling, naming and normalizing things, being able to have conversations about our feelings with someone who cares, wants to understand and help resolve.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. If we're not doing that, then we're having the feelings, but we're not dealing with them. And one of my, go-to sayings is you're going to deal with your feelings or they're going to deal with you.
Yeah.
Okay. So in this situation, I want you to understand at the point which too much gets put in without enough coming out to displace it, it's going to blow. And when it does, it's ugly. It's hurtful and it's damaging. And sometimes it's irreparable.
Yeah, you can't get those words back once they've been vomited all over somebody else.
That ship has sailed. Speaking of ships, my father grew up in Texas City, Texas. And some people will know about this historically. And I don't know all the dates and details specifically, so please don't hold me to it. But as a child, there was a great explosion, a ship explosion that happened there at the Texas City dock based on a ship that was, I think, carrying fertilizer. And it caught on fire and tried to come into Galveston, and Galveston said, "No, you're not bringing that in here." And so they shipped around for a while trying to find a place to dock, and ended up pulling into Texas City. And while they were probably being told to get that out of here, it exploded.
Oh,
the whole ship. I mean, fertilizer is pretty potent.
Right.
That's what's in most ill-gotten bombs these days anyway. So an entire shipload of fertilizer explodes the ship into hundreds of thousands of pieces, I'm sure. My dad, who lives miles from the shipyard, ends up with a piece of shrapnel from the ship in his neighborhood.
Wow.
3 feet into the ground.
Wow.
So pieces of that ship blew, and I'm, this is probably something that repeated itself thousands and thousands of times around the city at that time. They probably found this stuff everywhere. I wouldn't be surprised that it landed on houses and maybe caught houses on fire. I don't know. I know the black smoke was seen for days. All right. So that's an image that I have burned in my head based on stories told to me by my father and photographs that I've seen of that event.
Mm-hmm.
And I have to carry it back and say, this is emotional physics.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Something of that magnitude on a relational level is going to happen if you're not mindful about your emotions and you're not mindful about relating those things with the people in the relationships with you.
Well, and there's healthy ways. No, you're spot on with all that. It's a great visual to think of that ship exploding in the fertilizer. I mean, I'm thinking of the Oklahoma bombing because I haven't seen your ship, but everybody in the nation has seen that side of that building, what's left of it, right? And so it's a very graphic visualization of what happens within us. I remember the first time I experienced this personally. I was 10 years old, and there was a young woman staying with us who was just getting under my skin and driving me absolutely crazy. And my mom wasn't doing Well, I think she was actually trying to manage it. But for me, as a 10-year-old, I didn't see it and I didn't know what was going on. But she was just borrowing my bicycle without permission. She was teaching my dog tricks according to her, blah, blah, blah. So I had a whole week of this stuff as a 10-year-old that was just driving me nuts. I had no skills in knowing what to do with that. The day that she got picked up, she was showing the person that was picking her up all these tricks that she supposedly taught my dog that my dog already knew. Well, my little ego couldn't handle this. And I erupted like Mount St. Helens, man. I mean, it was nuts. Vesuvius everywhere. Kaboom. I kid me. I traumatized myself. I don't even know what I said, but I was screaming and yelling and crying at the same time. All of this vitriol all over this young woman. And then I burst into bigger tears and ran in the house and threw myself on the bed and just shook. And my dad came in. He's like, I've never seen that from you before. And I was afraid. I was like, I don't know what just happened. And we talked and he hugged me and, all this stuff. And I was made to go out and apologize to this girl, which I didn't think was fair either. But that's a whole other story. But that moment of complete loss of control was terrifying for me. And the adults that were there watching this didn't know what to do. Like nobody stopped me. Nobody stood up and said, whoa, 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 deep breath. Let's calm down. What's going, you and I, let's go talk. Come on. They just let it happen. And they were just, their jaws were dropped. And I don't know how long it happened, but that lack of control, and I have clients, I haven't experienced anything that hideous for a very long time. But I have clients that experience that. And I know you do too. And the damage that comes through there, it's like a tornado, man. It just wreaks havoc permanently. And then that has to be rebuilt, kind of like monsoon, hurricane style damage that's left, and it takes a lot of time to fix what is left in the wake of those kind of outbursts.
It would be easy, to kind of wrap this up with just all the negative undertones that seem to come along with talking about awareness and how easy it is to mess things up.
Mm-hmm.
But it's important, I think, that we swing this around and say, talk about the value and the benefit that comes from people who take the time, have the self-discipline to sit through, to be aware, to be open, to be mindful, to be present here and now with the people in their relationships and be honest.
Well, I think you just did that.
We misunderstand, or we underestimate. That's the word. We underestimate how much honesty people can take.
Mm-hmm.
They can take a whole lot more honesty than they can lies.
Right.
And they know they're lies.
Mm-hmm.
They know they're being lied to. They know if they're not being lied to, at least they're not being told the truth.
Yeah.
And when you know someone well, you know when that's happening.
Yeah.
So the honesty, even if it reflects poorly on me, or if it requires something of me that I don't feel like is fair, at least we still have the chance if I know the truth.
Mm-hmm. No, fair enough. I like how you had a moment of self-awareness and awareness for our listeners. Because this topic can be really discouraging because we all have these hideous moments from our life where we've vomited all over somebody else, right? Or we've been vomited on verbally, emotionally, whatever, relationally.
And when it happens in the car, it's really bad.
Oh my gosh, really? The figurative becomes the literal and suddenly nobody wants lunch. So the piece to that is we don't even recognize it as a big event, but it really is important to say that when I have this moment of awareness, I can choose not to say that thing, or I can challenge that thought, or I can ask a question. I can be more useful, wholly wise in the middle of a conversation. Then, and we don't have big emotional, wow, I'm being awesome. It's not, it's kind of a thing that just happens, and it's really very boring.
It's work.
It is.
It's work.
And then it becomes more natural, and then it's easier.
Yes.
And then we don't give it the credit that it really deserves. It just means you have a skill that you don't have to think about. And so that's really the goal.
See, I don't know that these are things I would ever consider becoming second nature. I think we still have to be intentional, but we have to be, we have to understand it before we can be intentional about it.
Yeah, that's wise.
I don't know what I need to be intentional about.
Mm-hmm. No, fair enough.
So there's
yeah, there is that. And if you want to learn more about relationships and struggles and things, and if you want to learn how to stop walking on eggshells, if that's a thing for you,
that hurts.
Yeah, it's not fun. And if you have challenging relationships or anxiety in your life, that's a thing. Pop over to our website at greaterimpact.org, greaterimpact.org, and download our free PDF that just kind of tells you how you can stop walking on eggshells. There's 5 tools in there that'll help you with that today. At any rate, I hope you listen to another episode, watch another video if you're getting this on YouTube. And just hit the next video, and I'm sure you'll learn more about dealing with conflict in that one.